The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zephyx of the Vortani Empire rose from his crystalline seat, his forearms gesticulating in what humans had learned was their species' equivalent of contemptuous laughter. The holographic display before the assembly showed Earth's latest diplomatic proposal, a request for technological aid to help evacuate the remaining human colonies before their dying star finally collapsed. Honored delegates, Zephyx's translator rendered his chittering into standard galactic. We are being asked to waste precious resources on a species that couldn't even keep their homeworld habitable. These orphans of Earth come before us, begging like primitive scavengers. A ripple of agreement swept through the chamber. The sleek Altarians nodded their elongated heads in unison. The gas-form nebulans pulsed in synchronized patterns of approval. Even the normally neutral Kepler collective remained ominously quiet. Captain Sarah Chen watched the proceedings from the human delegation's corner, her weathered hands clenched into fists. Beside her, Admiral Marcus Rivera's jaw tightened as Zephyx continued his theatrical display. Earth's children, the Vortani, sneered, scattered across a dozen dying systems like seeds cast on barren ground. They had their chance at greatness when they first reached the stars 3 centuries ago. Instead, they chose expansion over conservation, colonization over wisdom. Now they expect the galaxy to clean up their mess. The hegemony representative, a towering insectoid creature known as Speaker 9, clicked its mandibles in what Chen recognized as approval. The Vortani speaks truth. Humanity had the same opportunities as the rest of us. They chose poorly. Natural selection demands consequences. Chen stood slowly, her uniform bearing the insignia of the Terran Colonial Defense Force, a phoenix, rising from flames clutching a cluster of stars. Honored delegates, she began, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen too many worlds burn. You speak of natural selection as if it's some cosmic justice. But let me tell you what we've learned about survival. She activated her personal holo display, showing images of human colonies, mining operations on tidally locked worlds where the dayside could melt steel, agricultural domes on planets where the atmosphere was more poison than air, underwater cities on worlds where the surface was scoured by perpetual storms. You call us orphans, Chen continued, as if being abandoned made us weak. But orphans learn something the protected never understand. They learn to survive by any means necessary. Zephyx's translation device rendered his response as dismissive laughter. Survival? Your species hasn't even achieved Type 2 civilization status. Your technology is centuries behind ours. What could you possibly teach us about survival? Admiral. Rivera stepped forward then, his scarred face bearing the marks of someone who had lived through the Proxima Wars. You want to know what we learned, Ambassador? We learned that when everyone abandons you, when the galaxy turns its back and leaves you to die in the dark between stars, you either become something harder than diamond, or you become dust. The Admiral's eyes swept the chamber. 300 years ago, when Earth's environment collapsed and we took to the stars, we asked for help then too. The Galactic Council voted 847-3 to deny us aid. You said we were too primitive, too aggressive, too human. An uncomfortable silence settled over the assembly. Few of the current delegates had been alive during humanity's first exodus, but the records were clear. So we did what orphans do, Rivera continued. We learned to steal fire from the gods. Chen's holo display shifted, showing new images that made several delegates lean forward in shock. Massive shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, their construction unlike anything in the galactic database. Vessels that seemed to bend space around them, their hulls forged from materials that shouldn't exist. You taught us that strength is the only language the galaxy respects, Chen said quietly. Every time we asked for help and were refused, every time our colonies were raided by pirates, you refused to stop. Every time you watched our worlds die and did nothing, you taught us. Zephyx's forearms had stopped moving. His translator was silent. The beautiful irony, Rivera said, his voice now carrying an edge that made the chamber's temperature seem to drop, is that you were right about natural selection. The weak do die, But you made a fundamental error in your calculations. Chen touched her comm unit. Throughout the chamber, the delegates' personal screens activated, showing sensor readings from the edge of the system. A fleet was approaching, but not like any fleet in galactic records. The ships moved wrong, their signatures defying known physics, their formations speaking of technologies that shouldn't exist. You assumed, Rivera said as the readings updated in real time, showing the fleet's impossible size, that humanity was the weak link in the equation. The Vortani ambassador's skin had shifted to the pale blue of fear. This is impossible. Our intelligence indicated you had perhaps 50 capital ships across all your colonies. Chen smiled, and for the first time since entering the chamber, she looked like the predator humanity had become. We did. 50 ships to protect 13 billion people across 47 worlds. You know what's amusing about being underestimated? It gives you time to work. The sensor readings continued to update. 1,000 ships, 2,000, 5,000, all of them broadcasting human signatures, all of them impossible. We spent 3 centuries being ignored, Rivera said. 3 centuries learning from every species that refused to trade with us, by taking apart every piece of technology we could steal, salvage, or capture. 3 centuries breeding in the dark between stars while you grew fat and comfortable in your safe systems. Speaker 9's mandibles were chittering in distress. The hegemony has defense treaties. Had, Chen corrected. Check your communications. The silence that followed was deafening as delegates frantically tried to contact their homeworlds. One by one, their faces showed the same expression of dawning horror. You called us orphans, Rivera said as the first of humanity's impossible ships entered visual range of the station. You mocked Earth's children scattered and forgotten. But here's what you never understood about orphans, Ambassador Zefix. The Vortani was now a sickly shade of green, his forearms trembling. Orphans grow up angry, Chen finished. And when they finally come home, they don't come alone. The last transmission from the Galactic Council station was a fragment of Zefix's final words, cut short by static. We didn't know. We couldn't have known. But humanity had known. They had known that mercy was a luxury the strong could afford to give the weak. They had known that the galaxy would never accept them as equals. They had also known that equality was never something you asked for. It was something you took. The fleet that emerged from the darkness between stars carried the children of a dead world, raised in the cold vacuum of space, hardened by centuries of struggle and abandonment. They had come not as supplicants, but as harbingers of a new order. The galaxy had taught them well. Strength was indeed the only language it understood, and humanity had become fluent.